Coming up on Network Africa. 3 people die in Comoros as tropical cyclone Kenneth sweeps towards Mozambique and southern Tanzania. 3 members of Sudan's ruling Transitional Military Council offered their resignations as protesters remain defiant. Plus, a British man has been convicted of possessing bomb-making materials in Kenya. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Teniola Shobwale. We begin today in East Africa, where violent winds of up to 140 kilometers per hour have lashed the island nation of Comoros, killing 3 people. The region was pounded by Cyclone Hidai last month, with the storm and flooding killing more than 1,000 people in Mozambique, Zimbabwe and Malawi. United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction says Kenneth may bring winds of up to 200 kilometers per hour and torrential rain to Mozambique, Tanzania and Comoros. Mozambique's disaster management officials have declared a red alert, the highest state of disaster readiness ahead of the approach of Cyclone Kenneth. Authorities in Tanzania have also ordered evacuations of residents from low-lying areas and the closure of some schools and offices before the cyclone hits. Let's get more on this story from an environmentalist and climate change expert, Dr. John Orr Sanwa. Thank you for joining us on the program. Barely 1 month after Cyclone Hidai devastated Mozambique, Zimbabwe and Malawi, Cyclone Kenneth is bearing down on Mozambique again and Tanzania. What is responsible for this severe weather being experienced in southeastern Africa?
One of the measurable impacts of climate change is that it leads to severe weather events. And by that, we're talking about hurricanes, which is also called cyclones when it happens in the Indian Ocean. We're looking at heat waves. We're looking at forest fires. We are looking at droughts in Africa. We're looking at famine. Those are severe weather events, also flooding in some areas of the world. That is a direct result of climate change. So when you look at Mozambique, which for the past 20 years only had one cyclone, Cyclone Eileen, in 2000, then this 2019, just a month ago, we had Hurricane Idai. Now we're having Hurricane Kenneth in less than a month. That is a clear indication that something is wrong with our climate in that region.
So, John, Cyclone Hidai left about 1,000 people dead, and there are warnings of devastating flooding from Cyclone Kenneth now. What can the authorities in these 3 countries do in this situation to prevent the loss of lives and property as much as possible?
The greatest act of preparation for a cyclone of this nature is to evacuate people who may be in harm's way. We know that cyclones bring severe weather, severe storms and severe rain. So you're going to have flooding, you're going to have destruction. So people need to be evacuated. Now we have a little bit of history with the last hurricane, Hurricane Idai. So you need to be more prepared this time in Mozambique to avoid the loss of life. Over 1,000 people died last time. Many more have been displaced, have not even recovered from what happened. So this is going to be a double assault on a lot of people who are not quite ready to cope with another assault like this.
Okay, well, let's bring it home now. Is Nigeria and, well, the rest of West Africa also at risk of experiencing these tropical storms, and how equipped is the region to handle this disaster if it does occur?
Yeah, when we look at the issue of Nigeria, whether this can happen in Nigeria and what we ought to do, based on our geographical location, we are more prone to hurricanes. These are the storms that originate in the Atlantic coast, which is near Nigeria. The closest one happened in Cape Verde. So, and that was the easternmost hurricane that happened a few years ago. So hurricanes are beginning to trend closer and closer to West Africa. So we ought to be afraid, but it's not a grave danger yet. But we do have other severe storms to be worried about. We have desertification, severe weather, climate change effects that are happening already. Desertification is happening in the north. We already are dealing with flooding in Nigeria at a massive scale because of climate change factors also, the melting of the Arctic ice. We also have issues dealing with drought and famine in Nigeria. So we need to be very watchful, but not for cyclones for now.
Well, Dr. John Orr Sanwa, climate change expert and environmentalist, thank you for speaking to us on Network Africa about that issue. Meanwhile, rights group Human Rights Watch says women without money in Mozambique who were affected by Cyclone Hidai are being sexually abused by local officials in exchange for aid. HRW says it has spoken to people who say that the officials have demanded money from them in order for their names to go on a list. For those who cannot pay, they have been forced into intimacy. The rights group is therefore urging the government to investigate the allegations. Cyclone Hidai lashed Mozambique's port city of Beira with wind speeds of up to 170 kilometers per hour on March 14, and heavy rains prompted flooding, which submerged entire villages. In North Africa, 3 of the most controversial figures on Sudan's ruling Transitional Military Council have offered their resignation, one of the key demands of the protest movement. The 3 generals were seen as staunch allies of deposed President Omar al-Bashir. This follows talks between the military council and protest leaders who are demanding a rapid handover to a civilian administration. Meanwhile, trainloads of people have been arriving in the capital, Khartoum, to take part in the 1 million-man protest outside the army headquarters. For the first time, judges say they will join the protest to support change and for an independent judiciary. Now, a higher-ranking aide to Libyan commander Khalifa Haftar has attended the Moscow Conference on International Security. Kehira al-Tamim's presence is seen as a sign of Haftar's closeness to Russia at a time when forces loyal to him are fighting the internationally recognized government for control of Tripoli. A Russian Defense Ministry official guided Tamimi through a crowd of delegates and assisted in setting up interviews, including a live broadcast on a Russian state TV channel. Russia's military has long voiced backing for Haftar, the powerful commander of the Libyan National Army, who dominated eastern Libya in early April, and in early April launched an offensive on Tripoli. Haftar's troops have failed to breach the southern defense of Tripoli, and forces backing the internationally recognized administration have pushed back the LNA in some areas in the past few days. Now, a British man accused of helping to plan terrorist attacks in Kenya has been found guilty of possessing bomb-making materials. However, he was acquitted of conspiracy to commit a felony. Jermaine Grant from East London has been in custody since he was arrested in 2011. At the time, he was sharing an apartment with another Briton, Samantha Luwait, dubbed the White Widow, who had been married to one of the 4 suicide bombers who attacked public transport in London on July 7, 2005. Prosecutors allege Grant had planned a bombing campaign against hotels popular with foreign tourists, but he denies all the charges.
5 minutes, you'll get copies of. The prosecution proved this count to the required standard of beyond any reasonable doubt basis against first accused only. The first accused person is now convicted on count 1 under section 215 CPC. Is guilty as charged.
Now, Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari has paid a working visit to Maiduguri, the Borno state capital. He was received on arrival by the state governor, Kashim Shettima, and other senior government officials, after which he commissioned a new industrial hub located opposite the Borno State University.
The solar generating power plant in the Maiduguri Industrial Hub, which was earlier commissioned by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He actually began the commissioning program in this place. And in the Maiduguri Industrial Hub, we have the tomato processing plants and other agricultural implements provided by the government of Governor Kashim Shettima to encourage agricultural activities in the state. And just across the road is the Borno State University, which is one of the projects that the President was not able to commission. You know, there's a long list of projects lined up for the President to commission, but because of time factor, he is going to be commissioning just a few, and some of the projects he has commissioned so far, from here he moved on to town where he commissioned the Maiduguri mega school located in Gomari, and from there he proceeded also to commission a housing estate constructed by the state government, to cushion the housing problems of civil servants. He's also moved on to the specialist hospital, where there are projects executed by the state government, including the kidney center and other projects where he has commissioned. And then from there, on the itinerary, he moves to the palace of the Shehu of Borno, where he intends to pay homage, and from there, if time permits, he will probably commission 1 or 2 projects. And today is a work-free day in Maiduguri because of the activities, the traffic activities in town today, which is quite heavy. So the state government has declared today a work-free day. So most people are in their homes, and then quite a number of people also came out to show solidarity with the president. But then the security is very tight, and then there are parts of the city where the roads, especially where the president is expected to fly, were on lockdown, and then we have a lot of barricades, and this is to ensure that the president is safe throughout the period of his visit, and to avoid unnecessary logjam on roads. So far, this is what is happening right now, and from here we would join the presidential convoy at the Borno of Shehu, or the Shehu of Borno Palace, to find out what will go on from there. From the solar generating sites in the Maiduguri Industrial Hub, I'm Blessing Tuno Aso, reporting for Channels Television News.
Now to Kwara State, North Central region, where rainstorms have wreaked havoc on over 50 houses across 5 local governments in Kwara State. Our correspondent who visited the area reports the incident happened on Tuesday night, and that members of the community are trying to rebuild their damaged homes. Well, still to come on Network Africa. As the world marks World Malaria Day, hopes rise for a historical malaria vaccination pilot program launched in Malawi. Please stay with us.